The 1980s was a great time for cinema, hailed by many as maybe a second golden generation for Hollywood, with many classics such as Back to the Future, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Ghostbusters all coming out over this decade. These icons of the industry have been staples of our film collection for decades now, and rightfully so, with many sequels, prequels, spin-offs, remakes, every element across the series of films has something spectacular about it, from the costume design to the stories to the music. Even now, all this time later, the sound of the 80s is coming back to movies and TV. For example, if we look at the opening of Stranger Things, we don't even have to be in the knowledge that it's set in the 1980s. The music alone transports us back to that time when synthesizers and modular synths ran wild. The creators and musicians behind the music for Stranger Things, Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, talk about the processes going into capturing that 80s sound through their instruments and their approach with Vanity Fair in 2018.
This is my workspace with most of my equipment. I guess you guys wanted to know a bit about the theme song. Misconception, everyone thinks that the little arpeggio was written on a Juno, which I don't even own.
And it wasn't an arpeggio, it was played by hand.
And it was this guy.
That's doing the main sequence. This is what played the bass line. It's a SH2, very good, aggressive kind of bass line.
Doing a little self-resonating filter to the heartbeat, the like thump, da-dum, da-dum. Prophet 5 is in there, doing some kind of
like
a little pad, little piano kind of tone.
Tape echo is like all over everything.
In regards to the Stranger Things theme, we've already seen the vintage instruments used. In the music, we can hear a low droning section. This is built upon by higher modulating notes. In direct comparison, Halloween's theme has that same kind of sound. It too has that low bass synthesizer which lays the foundation for the higher, more melodic section. Now if we look at another section of cinema which is popular today due to the success of the 80s, meaning remakes, we can also hear the sound of the 80s. Here though, however, it's not always exact replications. To continue in a John Carpenter inspired manner, let's take a look at Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street and the 2010 remake. In the 2010 soundtrack, we hear a very similar sound, of course. However, the sounds are more slightly updated than the original. This is because, unlike Stranger Things, the goal is to bring the classic into the future for a newer and more unique feel to it. This makes it seem much more of a pastiche than a direct remake, paying homage to the original, all while replacing the synths that made the 1984 track classic. The Oxford English Dictionary defines nostalgia as a sentimental longing or wistful affection for a period of time in the past. The use of nostalgia in films can be seen in both a positive and a negative light. As put in The Guardian, no longer is nostalgia something that catches us by surprise. Now it is something that we consciously seek out. Shows such as Stranger Things are a prime example of this, as it makes us look back on a time in which things were possibly easier or maybe even more enjoyable for the audience. It is often argued that the past is a form of comfort in modern day society as we move closer to more progressive times, including civil rights, gender equality, sexuality, religion, gender and politics. However, it can be argued that this is nothing more than a form of escapism and not just warm memories of the past. YouTuber James Rolfe, who made waves by declaring that he wouldn't be seeing the reboot of Ghostbusters, not because of the female cast, but in his words, because it was piggybacking on the name of the 1984 original. This is a valid point which raises the argument of why can't Hollywood create new content instead of borrowing from the past? Is there a lack of innovation, or is it for the happiness that the past can bring? It's inarguable that the sense of atemporality that underpins our present culture plays a large role in today's film industry. Derrida states that cinema is the art of ghosts, a battle of phantoms. This can be taken and interpreted as stating that what we see on screen is a reflection of something that once was. To use Stranger Things as an example again, the period setting itself is a reflection of the past, as well as the music. As we have seen through its similarities with John Carpenter's scoring style, this is a clear reflection of the past.